Now, many of you may have already moved your houseplants outside. I have not. We are still getting strong winds. So if you have moved them out or you are just starting to move them out, I think this information will be helpful. So I say be patient because we're anxious. If you can see, this is my dining room and there's still room for a little table, but you got to be patient. Wait until those nighttime temperatures are 55 to 60 or above. So mid-May is generally a pretty safe time. Once you do move them out, acclimate them by moving them into a shaded area and protected from wind and heavy rains. Also protect them from the sun because too much sun too fast can cause leaf burns. And then you can just gradually move them to more sunny locations. Most of my houseplants won't take the full sun during the season at all. So they're always going to be a little shaded. Make sure that as the plants adjust to the new location, the leaves may lighten in color or the plant may go through some changes. But once they adjust, they'll return to normal, or they should. Fertilize once they're acclimated to the new environment. And anytime a plant is moved, it may need an acclimation period. Mine do. I've had fig trees almost completely lose all their leaves, only to leaf back out. Remember this, plants will need more water when they're outside, but don't overwater. So if you haven't moved them outside, look for new growth and start fertilizing if you see any. Clean up and trim dead leaves, no more than a third of the plant. Get the space ready for outside. That's something you can do if it's still too windy or cool out. And consider if your plants need repotting. And when plants are root bound, they do need to be repotted. And there's several signs to look for. Does the potting mix dry out really quick? Are the roots growing through the drainage hole? That's a really good sign. Does the plant seem to have stopped growing even after fertilizing? So if you answer yes to any of those, check the roots, see if they're circling around the pot, or if the root mass is so dense you can't see any potting soil, it's time to repot. This plant, as you can see, it was very much time to repot it, but it was doing well blooming. And some plants have different requirements. Some like to be root bound to bloom or in airplane pants to put off the little babies. But generally, you can follow these questions. Spring is the time to repot. It gives the actively growing roots time to grow into the new medium. You don't want to go up too large, however, in container size. So 1 or 2 inches. I don't like going up 1 inch. It doesn't quite seem enough. So go up about 2 inches. Determine what pot, plastic or clay. There's advantages and disadvantages to both. Plastic is lighter weight and might not need to be watered as often, but clay tends to help pull the water and the salts out of the soil. So that's good for reducing the salt buildup and for people that tend to overwater. Before you repot in a container, make sure you clean it. That's very important. And I use a 10% bleach solution, 10% bleach to 90% water. You also want to choose a good potting mix, not a potting soil, but a potting mix. So it's a soilless mix. It contains combination of organic matter like peat moss and then inorganic matter like vermiculite or perlite. So before you get ready to repot, water the plant and wait about an hour before repotting. That's a good time to clean up any foliage. And then once you take the plant out of the container, gently break up any of the root bound pots, any of the circling roots. And again, you want to get that container that's a little bit larger. And one of the reasons for that is if you put a small plant like this, if I put that plant in a large pot, it would lead to root rot because the roots would have a hard time finding that water. Again, the plastic or the clay depends on your preference, or the plastic is much lighter. So you want to put a little soil in the bottom when you get ready to replant, maybe about 1/4 of the container, and then place the plant in the soil, fill it around the edges and firm up the potting mix to give it good contact with the roots. And so there isn't much settling. You do want to leave about 1 inch gap between the top of the potting mix and the top of the container for watering and plant growth. And then you place the plant and water.